The Cobra Kai Season 7 trailer didn't just drop hints, it dropped bombs. Every single frame feels loaded with tension, secrets, and teases of what's coming next. Fans are already asking, who's going to rise, who's going to fall, and how will Episode 1 set the tone for the final battles? Asterisk, the first thing the trailer does is throw us right back into the world of karate, rivalries, and legacies. We see fast cuts of familiar faces, Miguel, Hawk, Tory, Kenny, Sam, and immediately, it feels like the calm before a storm. What's clever about the way Netflix structured this trailer is how it doesn't give away the story directly. Instead, it creates tension by focusing on emotional reactions, intense stares, and quick glimpses of fights rather than full context. That's how you know they're saving the real story beats for Episode 1. One of the most striking visuals is the dojo atmosphere. Whether it's Eagle Fang, Miyagi-Do, or the remains of Cobra Kai, there's a sense that every character is stepping into the next stage of their journey. For example, we see Kenny with a harder, more focused look. This isn't the same kid we saw rise under Terry Silver's manipulation. He looks more independent, more dangerous, and more determined. On the other side, Hawk flashes across the screen, and his expression isn't just about confidence, it's about redemption. Hawk has been on both sides of the karate war, but now his role feels more like a leader among the younger generation. Then comes the tension-filled shot of Tory Nichols. She's standing alone, her eyes darting between fear and defiance. This single frame tells us more than any dialogue could. Tory's last season was full of betrayal, guilt, and questions about her future. Seeing her separated from the group in the trailer hints that Episode 1 might place her in a crossroads moment. Will she fully break away from Cobra Kai's influence, or will her past drag her back? The trailer also gives us glimpses of Johnny, Lawrence, and Daniel LaRusso, but what's interesting is how much restraint the editors used. Instead of focusing too much on them, the shots are brief, almost as if Netflix wants us to remember, this season isn't just about the old guard anymore. Yes, Johnny and Daniel are still pillars of the story, but Episode 1 is clearly setting up the younger fighters as the true center of the conflict. This makes sense if Season 7 is moving toward a global stage like the international Sekai Taikai tournament. Another clever detail in the trailer is the use of silence. In between action shots, there are moments where the music drops, and we're left with just a look, a stare, or a breath. This isn't accidental. These are signals to the audience that Episode 1 will be heavy on emotional stakes, not just physical fights. It suggests that the season will test loyalties, relationships, and personal growth just as much as karate technique. Of course, trailers are masters of misdirection, and Cobra Kai has a history of planting scenes that play very differently in context. For example, a short glimpse of Sam LaRusso practicing could look like confidence, but in Episode 1 it may actually be a moment of doubt, a scene where she's questioning her place in this war. Similarly, Miguel's quick shots look powerful, but his arc has always been about balancing his talent with his heart. Episode 1 might challenge him to decide what he truly wants to fight for: love, family, or legacy. And then there's the shadow of Cobra Kai itself. Even though Terry Silver is locked away, the spirit of his influence hangs heavy in every scene. Kim Da-Eun, who was introduced as Silver's ally, may take center stage, pushing the Cobra Kai students harder than ever. The trailer hints at this with flashes of brutal training sequences, shots that look harsher, darker, and less about honor than survival. If this is what Episode 1 is teasing, then we could be looking at a new version of Cobra Kai, one that's even more ruthless than before. Finally, we can't ignore the callbacks. Cobra Kai loves to reward fans of the original Karate Kid films, and the trailer seems to promise more of that in Episode 1. The visual style of certain shots, like students training outdoors or the way the camera lingers on Johnny's old school techniques, feels like a deliberate nod to the legacy of Mr. Miyagi. The writers know that nostalgia fuels this series, but they also know that Episode 1 has to prove it can stand on its own as a new chapter. So, when we look at this trailer as a whole, what we see is a promise. Episode 1 isn't going to waste time. It's going to throw us back into conflict, test every character's loyalty, and set the stage for the battles to come. It may not answer every question right away, but it will make one thing clear: the fight for the soul of karate isn't over, and the stakes have never been higher. Asterisk, if the trailer showed us tension, episode 1 will give us the fallout. The first episode of any Cobra Kai season always sets the chessboard. It shows us where every character stands, what rivalries are heating up, and which alliances are about to break. Season 7, being such a highly anticipated chapter, will likely start with intensity right out of the gate, picking up from Season 6 at the end of last season. The kids of Miyagi and Eagle Fang managed to take down Terry Silver and expose his corruption. But the victory didn't end the war, it only cleared the way for a bigger battle. Episode 1 will most likely open with the aftermath of Silver's defeat. The Cobra Kai dojo is fractured, its reputation in shambles, and its students uncertain about their future. But Cobra Kai never stays down for long. The first episode will likely show Kim Da-Eun stepping up as the new face of the dojo. She has the ruthlessness, the training, and the drive to carry Silver's vision forward, only harsher and more unforgiving. This would immediately set her up as the villain who reshapes Cobra Kai into something even darker: Johnny and Daniel's uneasy alliance. On the other side, Johnny Lawrence and Daniel LaRusso have found themselves fighting side by side more often than against each other. But that doesn't mean they're suddenly best friends. Episode 1 could explore how difficult it is for these two to lead together. Daniel still sees the world in Miyagi's terms: discipline, respect, balance. Johnny, meanwhile, is more about raw toughness, instinct, and a little bit of chaos. Their differences could spark arguments in the very first episode as they try to guide their students for what's coming. Expect moments of humor too, because whenever these two clash over teaching styles, the show loves to balance the tension with laughs. The younger fighters' journeys now. Let's talk about the students, because Season 7 Episode 1 will not just be about the older generation. Miguel will likely be caught in a dilemma. His heart pulls him toward Sam and his family, but his competitive spirit pulls him toward the world stage. Episode 1 could be where Miguel decides whether karate is just something he does or something he lives for. Sam, meanwhile, might be struggling with confidence. She's proven herself before, but the weight of representing Miyagi on a global stage could cause doubt. A training sequence showing her frustration would set up her growth for the season. Tory is another key piece of Episode 1. After rejecting Silver's lies, she is on the path to redemption. But redemption is never easy, especially when old allies now see you as a traitor. Episode 1 might place Tory in a position where she has to choose between reaching out to Miyagi for acceptance or standing alone. This choice could be a huge emotional moment early in the season. Hawk and Kenny could also clash early on. Hawk has stepped up as a leader, and Kenny has grown tougher than ever under Cobra Kai. Imagine Episode 1 building toward a hallway confrontation or a near brawl at school, something that teases a bigger fight later but shows us how raw their rivalry has become. The tournament looms. We also can't ignore the shadow of the Sekai Taikai, the international karate tournament teased last season. Episode 1 may not dive fully into the competition yet, but it will probably start laying the groundwork. Representatives from the tournament committee might appear, setting expectations and raising the stakes. This could be the first time our characters realize just how high the level of competition will be. It's no longer about neighborhood dojo wars, it's about proving yourself on the world stage, surprises and returning faces. Cobra Kai is famous for its surprise cameos. Episode 1 might drop an early hint about a returning Karate Kid character, possibly Julie Pierce from the next Karate Kid, even if she doesn't appear right away. Episode 1 could plant the seed, maybe through a mention or a tease in dialogue. Similarly, Mike Barnes, who had a redemption arc in Season 5, could return to lend a hand. Fans love these callbacks, and Episode 1 could use them to remind us that the Karate Kid legacy is still alive in this final stretch. Emotional undercurrents under all the action and rivalries. Episode 1 will also carry heavy emotional beats. Johnny preparing to be a father again, Daniel trying to protect his family from one more round of chaos, Miguel and Sam wrestling with young love under enormous pressure. All of this will humanize the characters before the big fights begin. That's what Cobra Kai does best. It makes you care about the people, not just the punches. So, if the trailer is any clue, episode 1 will not waste a second. It will open doors to redemption, rivalry, and betrayal. It will test friendships, build new enemies, and remind us that this fight is bigger than ever before. By the end of the first episode, the stage will be set. Cobra Kai is down but not out. Miyagi-Do is stronger but divided, and every character knows that the final war for karate supremacy has just begun. Every season of Cobra Kai has carried deeper themes beneath the kicks, punches, and rivalries. Season 7, especially Episode 1, is no different. It's setting the tone for the endgame. And if we look closely at the trailer and what's come before, we can see the story leaning on a few powerful ideas: legacy versus new generation, redemption versus corruption, and unity versus division. These aren't just background themes, they're going to guide where the story goes next. Legacy vs. new generation at its heart. Cobra Kai has always been about passing the torch. We've watched Johnny and Daniel wrestle with their pasts while trying to shape the future. Episode 1 of Season 7 looks ready to push that theme even further. Johnny and Daniel are older, wiser, but still flawed. They've fought their battles, and now they're preparing the next generation to fight theirs. But the question remains, will the students honor their legacy, or will they rewrite it completely? Miguel, Hawk, Sam, and Tory are no longer just kids learning karate. They're champions with identities tied to their dojos. Their choices in Episode 1 will reveal whether they're loyal to the teachings of Johnny and Daniel, or whether they're ready to forge their own path. The Sekai Taikai tournament, hinted at last season, embodies this theme perfectly. It's not just about who's the best in the valley anymore. It's about who carries karate's future into the world stage. Redemption versus corruption. If there's one thing Cobra Kai loves, it's redemption arcs. Johnny Lawrence himself is the ultimate example, a man once broken by Cobra Kai's toxic teachings, now working to undo the damage. Episode 1 will likely set up multiple redemption stories at once. Tory, for instance, has already taken steps away from Silver's lies. But Episode 1 could show whether she can truly break free from her past mistakes. Her internal conflict between wanting to be better and the fear of rejection might be one of the emotional highlights of the episode. On the flip side, we have characters still tempted by corruption. Kenny is the clearest example. He was manipulated by Terry Silver, transformed from a bullied kid into a fierce fighter fueled by anger. Episode 1 might reveal if Kenny doubles down on this darker path, perhaps under Kim Da-Eun's mentorship, or if he starts to realize the cost of living under Cobra Kai's ruthless code. This tension between falling into corruption or fighting for redemption will be a major engine for the season. Unity versus division. Another theme Episode 1 will spotlight is unity. Daniel and Johnny's alliance is fragile at best, and their ability to guide the next generation depends on whether they can keep their egos in check. Their conflict isn't about who can fight harder, it's about who can lead better. Episode 1 may show them clashing over training methods, but in the end, unity has always been their greatest weapon against Cobra Kai. But unity isn't just about the teachers, it's about the students. Imagine Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang students still struggling to trust each other even after joining forces. Rivalries die hard, and Episode 1 could easily show cracks forming in the group. On the other side, Cobra Kai itself could also face division. Without Terry Silver, the students may not all fall in line behind Kim Da-Eun. This sets up the fascinating possibility of Cobra Kai fighting itself, torn between those who want honor and those who crave power. The road ahead. Global Stakes Episode 1 is also where the show will begin shifting from local to global stakes. The Sekai Taikai is not just another all-valley tournament, it's a worldwide event. That means the training, the expectations, and the consequences are higher than ever. Episode 1 might introduce representatives from the tournament, laying down rules and giving both sides a taste of what's coming. This theme of stepping into the global arena isn't just about karate, it's about identity. For the younger generation, it's the first time they'll be measured not just against their rivals, But against the world, emotional undercurrents underneath all these themes is the human element. Johnny preparing to be a father again while still carrying scars from his past. Daniel trying to balance his family life with his duty as a sensei. Miguel and Sam wrestling with love under pressure. Tory trying to heal wounds while proving she's more than the mistakes she made. Episode 1 will highlight that these aren't just fighters. They're people whose choices ripple through every kick and every punch. What's next beyond Episode 1, looking past the premiere? These themes will keep shaping the season. Legacy will push Johnny and Daniel to think about what they leave behind. Redemption will either lift characters like Tory and Hawk higher, or break them if they stumble. Corruption may claim Kenny or even tempt someone we least expect. And unity, if it holds, might be the only way to defeat Cobra Kai once and for all. So when we ask, what's next? The answer is simple: everything is bigger. The fights are bigger, the emotions are deeper, and the consequences reach farther than ever before. Episode 1 is the spark, but the fire it lights will burn through the entire season. And by the end, only one side will carry karate's true spirit into the future. Asterisk, if there's one thing Cobra Kai has always thrived on, it's the element of surprise. Every season has pulled twists that nobody fully expected, whether it was bringing back Terry Silver, introducing Chosen, or flipping rivalries into friendships. Season 7 Episode 1 will be no exception, and fans have already begun theorizing about what shocks could lie ahead. Let's break down the most exciting possibilities. Secret betrayal inside Cobra Kai. One of the loudest theories is that not every Cobra Kai student is fully loyal to Kim Da-Eun. Kenny Kyler and others may follow her leadership out of fear, but Cobra Kai is built on strength, and strength attracts challengers. Episode 1 could lay the seeds of an internal betrayal, with someone in the Cobra Kai ranks secretly questioning Da-Eun's methods. Imagine Kenny realizing that her teachings are even harsher than Silver's, or Kyler, who usually cracks jokes, finally snapping under the pressure. This could lead to Cobra Kai fracturing from within, setting up the possibility of a student-led rebellion later in the season. The return of Julie Pierce. For years, fans have been buzzing about Julie Pierce, the protagonist from The Next Karate Kid, with Season 7 potentially being the final stretch. Many believe this is the perfect moment to bring her back. Episode 1 may not reveal her outright, but it could drop a hint. Maybe Daniel mentions an old friend who trained under Mr. Miyagi, or perhaps the tournament committee references a fighter with her lineage. Even a small nod would send shockwaves through the fandom. If Julie returns, she could act as a mentor figure for Tory, giving her the guidance and discipline she desperately needs. Miguel's ultimate test. Miguel has always been the moral center of the younger generation. But what if Episode 1 sets up a storyline where Miguel is forced to fight someone he doesn't want to hurt? A theory that's been gaining traction is Miguel versus Kenny, not just as rivals, but as former friends divided by dojo loyalties. Episode 1 could drop the first hints of this clash, showing Miguel's reluctance and Kenny's aggression. This sets up a heartbreaking fight down the line where Miguel has to choose between compassion and victory. Hawk's leadership put to the test. Hawk's journey has been all about transformation. From bullied Eli to Cobra Kai's Mohawk fighter to redeemed Miyagi-Do champion, his arc screams leader in the making. A theory suggests that Episode 1 could show Hawk stepping up as the unofficial captain of the Miyagi-Do students. But leadership comes with challenges, and Episode 1 might test Hawk's authority by showing some students doubting him. Anthony LaRusso, for instance, could question Hawk's judgment, sparking tension within the team. This internal conflict might be as important as the external battles against Cobra Kai. Tory as the key to the endgame. Another big theory revolves around Tory Nichols. She has lived under Cobra Kai's shadow but rejected it when she saw Silver's cheating. Many fans believe Tory is destined to become the deciding factor in the fight between Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do. Episode 1 could be where that transformation begins. Imagine her caught between both worlds, Cobra Kai students calling her a traitor, and Miyagi-Do students unsure whether to trust her. Episode 1 might put Tory in isolation. But that isolation could be the spark that drives her to become the bridge between both sides, the final boss of Season 7. Every season has had a figure looming over the conflict trees: Silver, Chosen, and Kim Da-Eun. But many fans believe Season 7 will reveal one last ultimate threat, someone even bigger than what we've seen so far. Some speculate John Kreese, despite his apparent downfall, still has a role to play. Could he return in Episode 1, manipulating events from the shadows? Or could the final boss be Kim Da-Eun herself, taking Cobra Kai to new levels of cruelty? Another theory even suggests an outside competitor introduced at the Sekai Taikai will rise as the true endgame rival. Episode 1 may drop subtle hints, showing glimpses of a figure who will dominate the season. Wild cards and emotional bombshells, of course. No season would be complete without shocking emotional moments. Fans speculate that Episode 1 could set up Johnny facing his toughest personal challenge, yet balancing fatherhood with leadership. There's also the theory that Amanda LaRusso could play a bigger role, stepping in to protect her children from the chaos karate has brought into their lives. And then there's the possibility of relationships breaking under pressure, Sam and Miguel facing doubts, or